Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. A very warm welcome to the day 2 of the SBL Webinars to Success for June 2024 exams, and I am your tutor, Kashif Kamran. Just a quick recap of the day 1 yesterday. If you have missed on that, the day 1 focused on the approach to success that you should all be taking, considering the SBL exams is just 19 days away. We discussed about the right approach, the right timetable, and the sort of study resources which should be on your study tables for the next 19 days, considering there is a information overload, so you can get easily distracted with what sort of a resource is ideal for your success. Now, into the day 2, a much more important day, because my focus today will be on techniques to success, and they're extremely important in terms of their implementation in your success for upcoming exams. Okay, let's open the techniques to success in SBL and let's take an overview of what I will be discussing with you today. First of all, you need to have a technical grasp of SBL. We even talked about that yesterday. But just alone a theoretical soundness of SBL is not sufficient to pass the SBL paper. So one student could be very sound theoretically. He knows the theories and the models and chapters and everything given in the chapter, but he's not sound on the part of exam techniques, which are much more important to give him or her the success. And that's what we're discussing today, the exam techniques, which are important when you're practicing over the next 18 days, and exam techniques on the actual day of exam, which are extremely important. What are right exam techniques for SBL? First of all, I'll be discussing with you the exam techniques from now till the day of exam, which you need to incorporate when you are practicing at home. I did mention the questions to practice yesterday. I have given you the priority list 1 and the priority list 2. So the practice you will be doing over the next 18 days, you need to implement the exam techniques, which I will be guiding you shortly, so you excel on them. And those exam techniques are on your fingertips, and you can do them naturally on the day of your exam, the actual June 2024 exam. So we'll be talking about the exam techniques on the day of exam as well in this session. So let's open up the exam techniques. Let's look at what should be the focused exam techniques for all of you. This is a summary of things which will come in for exam techniques. I will be discussing about the time management. I will be demonstrating that on the practice platform as well. We have 195 minutes in SBL since September 2023 exams. How would you go about utilizing the 195 minutes? There are lots of models and theories around utilization of 195 minutes, and you can follow anyone you like, because by the time you're watching this webinar, you must have watched many other webinars or many other resources by ACCA, which do guide you about the utilization of 195 minutes. So whichever perspective you like, good, and whichever perspective you think is better for your utilization of 195 minutes, you can go ahead with that. So I'll be giving you an example of 195 minutes shortly. Professional marks, we know they're critical. They are 20% of the paper, and at times students are very blur with professional marks. They're very confused with professional marks. They don't know exactly what is to be done to capture most of those professional marks. And I'll try to do my best to guide you about a clarity on professional marks today. Then obviously the technical marks, 80% of the paper is technical marks, and how you aim for excellence in technical marks. Stop idealizing the examiner answers. I'll be discussing some sort of issues around examiner answers, and students idealize them a lot. Students replicate them a lot, and they try to do everything which has been done in the examiner answer. So I just need to discuss some of the underlying issues and challenges for the students if they do idealize the examining team answer. What's good in the answer and what's bad in the answer? That's what needs to be discussed with clarity. And finally, the RGB analysis of the examiner report. We even discussed about that, the red, green, blue analysis of the examiner report yesterday, but I just want to reaffirm on that in a more proper manner today, that how productively this RGB analysis could be if you just do it on September 23 and December 23 examiner report. So I'll try to illustrate that so it becomes more effective for you to follow on. Let's open time management first. Since September 23, you are all familiar that the time in the paper is 195 minutes, in line with all ACCA strategic level exams. Each mark is worth 1.95 minutes per mark. So we're taking a simple mathematics here. We are just taking the absolute time and we're taking the absolute marks. We're not dividing the marks between technical and professional. So we're simply saying 195 divided by 100. So it's 1.95 minutes per mark. Now, how would you go about utilizing it? You have a task 1 in the paper, you have a task 2 in the paper, and you have a task 3 in the paper. So for each task, decide the total time you have and split it between the reading and planning time and the writing time. So you look at the task 1, for example, the task 1 could be for 34 marks. You multiply the 34 marks with 1.95 minutes. You found the total time you have for the task 1. But within that total time, you need to understand that there is a time for reading and planning, and there is a time for writing. So I need to discuss that split as well between RAPT and the writing time. Let's do a demonstration of that. If I take you to the practice platform, I hope you can now see that on your screen. This is the same question we were discussing yesterday, which is from the December 23 paper. You look at the task number 1, you immediately open your word processor. That's where you need to answer the question. And you open the calculator and you see, okay, task 1 is 36 marks multiplied by 1.95 minutes. So I have a total 70 minutes for this particular question. So I'll just write that in my word processor and I'll delete it at the end of the answer. Task 1, I have 70 minutes and I'll just divide 70 with 4 because 1/4 of the time is for reading and planning. So approximately I have 17 minutes to read and plan, and that means I have 53 minutes to write the answer for task 1. So that's the simple mathematics you can do in the exam paper. 36 marks multiplied by 1.95 minutes. We got 70 minutes. We put it right over here. We'll delete it after completing the answer in exam. 70 divided by 4 because 1/4 of the time is for reading and planning. So 17 minutes is for reading and planning. The requirement and the exhibit which you need to read, and then 53 minutes you have to write the answer. So that's the time management. You go to the task 2, you use the calculator, you go to the task 3 and you use the calculator. So I hope you're all fine with this time management techniques, right? Now in 17 minutes, you need to read and plan. There is a mechanism of reading and planning, which I need to guide you. And then there is a mechanism of writing, which I need to guide you. Now, what exactly a student do in the reading and planning time? 17 minutes, what to do? That's number 1 question. Then 53 minutes, what to do? So how would you go about utilizing it? That's my next exam technique, which I will be guiding you. Is everyone clear with the split of time? Is everyone clear how we got 70? Is everyone clear how we got 17 minutes and 53 minutes? So will you be doing that at home when you're practicing a couple of questions ahead of your mock exam for June? Okay, great. And try to ensure that you do this time management, you excel this time management, because you need to implement it on in the real exam. So the more you do, the better you will be. If anyone has just joined in, you can please catch on the recording on the YouTube channel. Thank you. Okay, just let's go back for a minute and then come back to the practice platform. So I hope you're all clear with the split. You're all clear with 1/4 is for the reading and planning and 3/4 is for the writing time you have in the paper. Students, journal tendency is that they compromise on the reading and planning time. Either they don't know how to read and plan, or they are in some sort of a rush to write the answer. You need to remember that the contribution of the reading and planning time, the contribution of 17 minutes of reading and planning time, as we found for the task 1 in December 23 paper, would improve the quality of your answer. If you just use 3 to 4 minutes to read and you just rush over the answer, there are significant chances that you're not writing a very good answer which is well connected to the case information. You might be writing more of a generic answer around a topic, but you're not adapting your answer, you're not tailoring your answer according to the situation or information given to you in the case study. So please ensure that reading and planning time, the 17 minutes we just identified, is utilized to perfection. And I'll just be showing you the sort of steps you can do in it. Let's take an example, which we're already taking from the December 23 paper to illustrate all this. Now, this is what needs to be done in the 70 minutes you have for task number 1. And I refer this as a TEPCA approach. This is the first time I'm coming across this mnemonic, which I have developed exclusively for this webinar, June 24, and I'll be using it for my future webinars and classes. So this is the premiere of this TEPCA approach, and I hope you will benefit from this. What is TEPCA? T, task, read first. When you start your 17 minutes, your first thing to do is to read the task. I'll just show you how. Because once you know what is in the task, what is the task asking you, what is the technical things you need to do in the task, what are the professional skills you need to demonstrate in the task, you can then connect the requirement of the task with the exhibit. Because when you read the task, you will come to know which exhibit to connect the task with. Did we got that on the day 1 yesterday? That when you're reading through a task, you will get a clue that with which exhibit it relates to. So reading the task will make you familiar with what to do, which exhibit to connect with, how many technical marks I have, how many professional marks I have, and then that way you go down reading the case study. So task, that is first. E, exhibit, read it effectively. Now, once you read the task, go down, read the exhibit, whichever exhibit you have identified after reading the task. Suppose it's the exhibit 1. You go down and read it effectively. Find the information from the exhibit, which can help you plan your answer or write your answer later. Plan. How many points to write? How much time I have? So you plan accordingly. If it is a 10 marks requirement, you need to write 5 points. Technical, right? If it is a 12 marks requirement, ideally you need to write 6 points, because each well-developed point in SBL is worth 2 marks. A point which is well-developed. A point which is not well-developed is not worth 2 marks. How much time you have? You've already calculated that. You know you have 17 minutes to read and plan. You have 53 minutes to write. Create. When you're going through the exhibits, copy paste, create, make a skeleton. I'll show you that. Dump. Keep dumping information from exhibits into the word processor. So in the 17 minutes of reading and planning time, you must have dumped a lot of information from the exhibits into your word processor, and you have a sort of skeleton ready. Now, finally, in the 53 minutes you have, attack. Fill the skeleton with detailed explanation. Everything you've copied from the exhibit should now translate into a well-developed point. It should be well explained. A lone copy paste is useless. So if you just copy paste, but you're not elaborating upon them, you're not explaining the implication of that. You're not explaining the consequence of that. You're not explaining the significance of that. So if you're not elaborating on the copy paste element, that's useless. So I hope we can go to the demonstration of TEPCA if everyone is fine. Task, exhibit, plan, create, attack. Right? So is everyone clear with this? So a lot of time the student asks me, should we read the exhibit first or the task first? which is a quite an unusual question, because we always read the requirement first and the exhibit after, whichever paper you're doing in ACCA. Then you go down into exhibits, you find points in exhibits, you copy paste those points from exhibits to make a skeleton, and then finally you attack on the skeleton, right? So it's not just knowing TEPCA, Muhammad Mohsin, it's more about applying TEPCA. It's more about implementing TEPCA when you are sitting at home and practicing over the next 18 days. And on the day of the actual exam, you follow the approach, which is right in front of your screen. Just let me take a 5 minutes quick demonstration. I hope you can see the practice platform back on your screen. We had 70 minutes where we had 53 minutes of writing and 17 minutes of reading and planning time. This particular statement you've wrote on the word processor, please delete this once you finish off the answer. So anything you write extra and which you don't want the marker to see, please delete it once you end your answer. So we'll open the task 1 like this in exam and the word processor. And the task 1 will just read the opening paragraph of the task 1 before we copy things down. See what I can do for you. The chair of the risk committee has undertaken an investigation into a recent data breach. So on the left-hand side, we can see there is an exhibit by the name of data breach investigation. So that means the answer for task 1A will be coming out of the exhibit number 1. So investigation into the recent data breach at NC Tech and has emailed his preliminary findings to the Chief Executive Officer. The CEO is concerned that this resultant in bad publicity could significantly harm NC Tech relationship with its client base and may have a detrimental effect on the business performance going forward. So the CEO definitely is very concerned about this data breach. He thinks that this will have an effect on the repute of the company and the relationship it has with its client. The CEO has provided you with a copy of this email and has asked for your assistance. You can see the copy of that email is basically the data breach investigation right here. So the answer would come right from here. A, write a memo. So we'll just copy things from here, copy paste, and we'll go down here with the professional marks. Control C, and I'll just bring it back to my word processor. So this is the first thing we need to do. Then you go down and you write over here that the answer for this will come from exhibit 1. Okay, I'll read the task on the word processor. Then you go down and you have a second issue. The recent security breach has forced the board to consider enhancement to the current IT security arrangements. And you can see there is a exhibit IT security. So that means the answer for task 1B will come from IT security. You have been provided with the relevant extracts of the IT security manual and have been asked to evaluate it and recommend any further measures which will strengthen these existing controls and reduce risk of future data breach. So how can you strengthen the existing controls to reduce the risk of future data breaches? The B requirement. Draft a briefing paper. We'll see what you need to put in the briefing paper, and you copy this from here till here. Control C, and you bring it down on your word processor and you close the task. You bring it back on your word processor and you write over here that the answer for this will come from exhibit 2. Now, whatever extra you're writing, like exhibit 1, exhibit 2, you will delete it off once you finalize your answer. The time you've wrote on the top, you will delete it off. Now, quickly in 2 minutes, you will structure the task 1 and task 1A and 1B, what to do. First of all, for task 1, you need to write a memo. For task 2, you need to write a briefing paper, so you know how to structure them. Then secondly, you need to write a memo to the CEO which evaluates the information from the chair of the risk committee, the possible impact on NC Tech reputation, and recommend actions that could be taken. So 2 things you need to write in the memo. First of all, the possible, we can just copy it here, the possible impact on NC Tech reputation from whatever information is given in the data breach investigation. And number 2, recommend actions that could be taken for avoiding this impact on reputation. Control C. So two things to be done in the memo. The possible impact of the data breach on the repute of the organization, and what can they do to improve their reputation. You have 14 marks for this. So that means, yes, you will use the same word processor, right, for task 1A and 1B. So task 1 has one word processor, right? You will answer the whole task in one word processor. Then you go to the next task, task number 2. You have another word processor there. I hope you're clear with that, Pauline. Okay, so how many marks we have for memo? 14 marks. So how many points we need to write in total? 14 divided by 2. How many points we need to be writing for the memo? 14 divided by 2. We need to write 7 points. Now, 7 points mean the possible impact on the NC Tech repute. Now, one student can write like 4 possible impacts on the NC Tech repute, and he can write 3 actions the company should be taking. So you have total of 7 points. So you say, okay, I'll write 4 points under the possible impact, and I'll write 3 points under the actions the company can take to ensure that their reputation is not negatively affected. Is everyone getting clarity? So you can write 4 and 3. So total points you need to write is 7. Now you have 2 headings. One is the possible impact, one is the recommendations. So you can write 4 under the possible impacts, for example, and you can write 3 under the recommending actions, and that makes the list to 7. Now, what next? Professional skill marks are available for commercial acumen by demonstrating awareness of how the data breach could affect the repute of the company. Now, when you're reading the exhibit and you will have information in the exhibit, you will keep thinking that how this information is affecting the reputation of NC Tech. So you need to link the problem with how it could impact the NC Tech reputation. Is that something natural? Professional skill marks are available for commercial acumen by demonstrating awareness of how the data breach could damage NC Tech reputation. So every problem you will see in the data breach investigation, you need to think how will it impact the repute? Will it affect the stakeholders? And that's why it affects the reputation. Will it affect the client base? That's why it affects the reputation. If it is known publicly, the competitor can take advantage of that. The competitor can defame me. That's how it affects my reputation. So there could be possible ways in which your reputation could be affected, right? Because this information can go public. People will know about it. Your competitors will know about it. Your clients will know about it. Your clients might switch to alternatives, etc. So every issue you need to think about how will it impact the repute. So is demonstration of these professional marks pretty easier? If you can link every problem with how it affects the repute of NC Tech. You can, Amina, you can do that. You can link every impact with recommendation. That's also fine. Not necessarily, Masura, that every impact has a recommendation. So you can write 4 impacts and 3 recommendations. That's fine. So because we have an odd number 7, so not every of them will have a recommendation. So you can just say, okay, these are 4 possible impacts on reputation, and these are 3 good recommendations how they can overcome it. I hope you're all clear with that, right? Okay, great. So we need to structure the answer. In memo, we need to write a total of 7 points under the 2 headings on your screen. We need to demonstrate the commercial acumen. We need to have awareness that how the information given will affect the repute of the organization. You go to the second requirement and you have a briefing paper there. And in the briefing paper, you to the board that evaluates 4 security layers in NC Tech IT security manual and recommend any further security control that could be put in place to minimize the risk of a future data breach. So we have a briefing paper for 14 marks and 2 marks per valid point. So that means we need to write again a total of 7 points here. But how many security layers we need to evaluate? Evaluate 4 security layers, right? So in this briefing paper, we need to evaluate the 4 security layers. We don't have an idea what the security layers are till the time we open the exhibit number 2. So I can just say, okay, security layer 1, security layer 2. I can put the proper names when I open the exhibit number 2, security layer 3, security layer 4, and I'll put their proper names. Now, I need to evaluate each security layer in the manual given on the left-hand side and recommend any further security controls that I can introduce for that security layer. So I will evaluate the security layer 1, what is right in that, what is wrong in that, is there any issue within that security layer, and what extra controls can be added to this security layer, right? Is that clear? So each evaluation will give me 2 marks, right? So for security layer 1, if I evaluate, I'll get 2 marks. And if I provide further security, what further security can I add to the security layer 1, which is not currently present in security layer 1. So further security will give me another 2 marks. So how many marks I get under security layer 1? 4. The same, I will get marks under security layer 2. So that means 8. Same I get here. That means 4, 8, 12. And same I go down here, I'll get 16. Sometime it happens in SBL that because you have 4 security layers, the marks could have been 16. That would have been better, but you had 14 marks and you need to go down in each security layer. Each security layer needs to be evaluated for the issue, the problem, why the security layer was weak, that resulted into the data breach, and what further controls can you introduce in that security layer. And that's how you build up the marks. So you'll almost go down to the 16 marks if you do 4 marks under each security layer. Yes, definitely, Mohammed Hussain, you'll get 4 professional marks above when you demonstrate the commercial acumen, right? Is everyone clear with the breakup of security layer 1, 2, 3, 4? Each needs to be evaluated for any issues, and then what further securities could be issued within that layer. It is quite possible that the security layer you are evaluating has no issues, and it was not the reason of the data breach because that security layer was operating effectively. Is that possible? So if it could be that security layer 2 was operating effectively, and that was not the reason why the data breach happened. So you will just evaluate the security layer 2 that, and will you write further security for security layer 2 then if it was operating effectively after evaluation? Everyone? Will you write further security for a security layer if it is operating effectively after you evaluated it? But will you write further security for a security layer which is not operating effectively and which contributed to the data breach, right? So is it necessary that for every security layer we need to write further security? No. So we'll only write for the ones where it's needed. But is it necessary to evaluate each security layer to find is there any issue, is there no issues? So I hope you're getting the breakup of the 14 marks. It's quite possible that for one security layer, we don't need to write the further security and we get 14 marks. Now see the marks are 14. Security layer 1, 4 marks. Security layer 2, 4 marks. Security layer 3, 4 marks. And security layer 4, just 2 marks. We're not writing any further security for security layer 4, for example. So we're getting to 14. So not necessarily every security layer it needs a further security. No, you're not recommending any further layer, Shahab. You're just telling that within the existing layers, what further security can be added. So examining team is not asking you to recommend a layer. They're asking you to recommend further security within a layer. So please don't recommend a fifth layer. Only keep yourself within the 4 layers and see what further security you can add within the layer. So you had 14 marks here, right? Let's see what is the professional skills over here. Professional skill marks are available for analysis by considering the current IT security manual. So you need to consider the current IT security manual, which is given on the left-hand side of the screen, and any additional security control that could minimize the future risk of data breach. So how would you get these 4 extra marks around analysis, the professional marks? If any student logically recommend what further security can be added to a layer, to the existing layer. So the recommendations you are given for further security, that's where the 4 professional marks lies in. Is everyone clear with that? So please ensure you give a logical security, which should enhance, which should reduce, sorry, the possibility of any data breach in future. So you need to go down with that. Now tell me just one thing, though professional marks is my second discussion. If you read these statements around professional marks, aren't they clear enough to tell you what you need to do to get these 4 marks? Isn't examiner telling in each professional skill marks that what you need to do to get these 4 marks? Just like the exhibit, just like the 1B, examining team is telling us that if you write an additional security control, which could minimize the risk of the future data breach, you will be aiming for these 4 professional marks. So a lot of time I've seen students learning the definition of the professional skills like commercial acumen, like analysis. That's of no use, right? Because in the exam, the examining team will give you a statement of how you need to demonstrate the professional skill. If you read that statement properly, you know exactly that when you're writing the answer, which areas you need to focus on. Do you need to do something extra here for analysis skill? Because for every security layer, you will be recommending a further security. So when you're recommending a further security, is that alone giving you technical marks, or is that also giving you the professional marks? So when you're writing a further security, is it just giving you the technical marks, or is it also giving you the professional marks? Because professional marks are linked with further security. So will you be writing the further security very well, very clearly, very properly? So you're not doing any extra effort, right, for these 4 marks. It's just part of your normal answer. Please don't use tables, Brihumati. Tables are not allowed in SBL unless and until the examining team asks you prepare a summary. If you see a word prepare a summary in SBL, then only use a table. Otherwise, you have to go with headings and paragraphs in writing the answer. I hope that's clear to you, Brihumati, and for many other students taking this webinar. So in your reading and planning time, I think you should spend a good amount of time understanding what you need to do, the format, the split of marks, the professional marks. You need to understand the structure in which the answer is to be presented, because then when you go down and read the exhibits about data breach investigation or about IT security, you will understand it properly, and you can then copy paste the points and paste them under the relevant areas. So if you get any point about security layer 1, you will copy paste here. If you get any points about the impact on NC Tech reputation from the data breach, you will copy paste here. So you'll copy paste the points from exhibits, and in that way, you're preparing a skeleton answer, which you can attack in the later 53 minutes. So please prepare a skeleton in the 17 minutes, and that skeleton would help you attack the answer. No, you need to write a proper recommendation, Amina, whatever recommendation you think is fine within the context of the case, because you will be reading the IT security, right? So by reading the IT security, you will have a fair idea that what sort of recommendation I can give to them, which will ensure that there is a mitigation of any future security breach. Definitely, when you read the IT security manual, something would be missing, something obviously would be missing, and that's what you need to recommend them that they should improve upon to avoid any future data breach. Is that clear to all of you? Now, then you open the exhibit 1, you read through the exhibit 1, you find points from exhibit 1. For example, just need to show you something. You just copy a point. For example, you picked a point, uh, something like this, Control C, and you come back and you paste it here. You then pick the second point from here, Control C, and you bring it and dump it over here. These are points which you need to develop later. Then you picked another point while you were reading and you thought, oh, this is something very important. I should write about this in my answer. Control C, and you bring it down over here. This is copy paste, right? And once the reading and planning time is over and you look at your word processor will look like a skeleton. Now you need to fill the skeleton properly. You need to give the proper start of a memo, like to, from, date, subject, something like that. You need to give proper headings and paragraphs. You need to develop these points into sufficient depth to get your technical marks, so on and so forth. Is everyone getting the sense of this, please? Is everyone getting the sense of the TEPCA task read first? Understand within the task the format, understand within the task the number of marks you have, the number of points you need to write, understand within the task the professional marks, how they need to be demonstrated. Then read the exhibit, then copy paste from the exhibit and dump it under the relevant sections of task 1A and 1B. Then prepare yourself to attack on writing a good answer. So 17 minutes of the reading and planning time, that is very, very important. Right? So it's yes, definitely. I totally agree with you, Masura, because if you understand the requirement, you understand the expectation of the requirement, you're half passed. Because a lot of times the student don't understand the requirement, or they try to understand the requirement the way they want to understand it. They're not understanding the requirement from in the way the examiner want it to be done. So please read the requirement carefully. That will lead to a very good answer. I hope you're all fine and clear with this STEPCA approach, right? Within the reading and planning time and the writing time. The attack part is the writing time, right? The attack time is where you had the 53 minutes. And for all this, you had 17 minutes. Practice, 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 and you will become perfect on this. Now, just made things easier for you. This 4 things, TEPC is the reading and planning time, right? And attack is the writing time. And you know how much time you have. We were taking an example of task 1. So we had roughly like 17 minutes for all this. And we had 53 minutes for all this. Now, planning leads to a good answer. Yes, Prihumati, every question has like 2 parts, journally, risk and recommendation, or even the task 1A, we were looking at the possible impacts and the recommendations on something. You are not making a table in SBL. The only time you make a table in SBL, and I think that's very rare. I saw one of the past paper, I don't remember the reference number, examining team asked prepare a summary. Just like they're asking memo, a letter, they ask you prepare a summary. Then you make the tables, just like you make in the AA paper, the F8 paper, and you make table and you put issue in one column, recommendation in the second column, or risk in one column and mitigation in the second column. But apart from that, you need to go in para form. I hope that's clear, right? Okay, I'll just come back to the practice platform and look at the task one again. Just let me move forward. The technical marks. Now, when you're writing the answer for task 1A and 1B, you know what to be done in task 1A and 1B. You have seen 14 marks, you know 7 points is to be written down. What is the best approach which can help you excel the answer? I'm just coming to that, Azmeer Raza. Each point is well picked from within the exhibit. That's the first thing you need to assure yourself. You need to ask a question to yourself. Did I pick all the points in my answer from the exhibit? Or what percentage of points in my answer were coming from exhibit? If 70%, 80% of the points in your answer are from the information given in the exhibit, you're passing the SBL paper. But if 70 to 80% of your points in the answer are generic point, you're writing writing the impact on reputation journally. You're not linking the impact on reputation to NC Tech. You're just writing a journal reputation or journal reputation impact on any organization. That's useless. Or if you're trying to give an extra control for a security layer, that extra control you are giving is very generic. That extra control is not in the context of NC Tech as an organization. That's useless. So ask a question to yourself that have I picked points from the case exhibit? How much points in my answer for 36 marks, task 1A and 1B has been well picked up from the case study? Majority? Good. Excellent. Number two, each point is well developed in the context of the need of the requirement. What is the requirement asking you? Have you developed the point versus the need of the requirement? Now, for example, if we look back to the practice platform, you had two things for a well-developed point. In task 1A, you were not just telling a possible impact on the repute, but you were also telling the recommending actions to avoid any such breach in future or to avoid this reputational impact in future. That's the well-developed point. If you just write the possible impact, but you don't write the actions, that's half the answer. That's an incomplete answer. Same goes with 1B. You're not just evaluating a security layer, but you're also telling what extra security can be added to that security layer to avoid the data breach in future. So if a student just evaluates the security layer, but he didn't answer the further security point, you're giving an incomplete answer. So when you're developing a point, please ensure, are you developing a point versus the need of the requirement? So that's where the need of reading the requirement becomes very important. Students ignore the comma and because a requirement can break in SBL paper with the comma and with and. So please ensure you read the requirement carefully. There could be multiple things in one requirement, and you might be answering it partially. I hope you're clear with this point number two, all of you, right? So each point is well developed in context of NC Tech and versus the need of that requirement. What is the requirement asking you? Number three, each well-developed point ideally is 3 to 4 sentences long, not lines. Sentences, not lines. I hope you understand there is a difference. Lines, sentences. What's the difference between a line and a sentence? 3 to 4 sentences, not 3 to 4 lines. I hope you know what is a sentence, right? And what is a line? So am I saying 3 to 4 lines? No. I'm saying 3 to 4 sentences where you put a full stop, right? So a sentence could be 1.5 line. A sentence could be 2 lines where you put a full stop. But a student forgets to put a full stop. Your 3 to 4 sentences might be a full page, which is wrong. 3 to 4 sentences is a reasonable length of a paragraph, which should be written for a well-developed point. SBL examining team does not like lengthy paragraphs in SBL. They want the paragraph to be broken after 3 to 4 sentences. So one well-developed paragraph address one well-developed point, which is for 2 marks. So I hope you follow that. So if you are evaluating a security layer, 3 to 4 lines. If you are recommending an additional security, you can say 2 to 3 sentences, right? It's 3 to 4 is the maximum sentences, right? So probably when you give an action or you give a recommendation, the recommendations are shorter. So recommendations can be 2 sentences, but when you're evaluating a security layer, it could be 3 to 4 sentences. But when you're saying a further security, the further security can just be like 2 sentences. Number 4th, if there is no exhibit about a requirement, bring your knowledge around the topic and adapt to the company nature or characteristic. Example, the task 2A, December 23. There was no exhibit about it. I hope you remember that yesterday. We were looking for that on the day 1. If I just show you, we were looking at this task 2 yesterday, and there was a task 2A. Explain how NC Tech could benefit from a more diversified board of directors. There was no exhibit telling us about diversity or anything like such. It could be scattered in somewhere in pre-scene, or it could be scattered somewhere in board transcript somewhere, but there was no proper exhibit for it. It could be somewhere in board transcript, just like very minor, but this is more like an answer where you are talking about the benefits of a more diversified board journally. Do everyone know what are benefits of a more diversified board journally? Have you read the examining team article on diversity, which is published by the examining team? So you know the benefits. How many marks? 10. How many benefits you need to write? How many benefits you need to write? 5. Now, if you just copy paste the benefits from the book or from the article, and you just write them journally, but there is no connection of the benefit that how this would help NC Tech or how this will help NC Tech in terms of the future, how a diversified board at NC Tech help them in future, you are not getting marks. So a lot of time the student journally write the benefits, but they're not linking benefits to a case, to the organizational attributes, to the organizational characteristics. Now you know this organization. You must have read the pre-scene. So any organization you will face on the day of exam, you are already familiar with it. So when you're writing a benefit, you can recall the pre-scene, you can recall the characteristics, you can link them up with it. Is everyone getting this perspective? So if you are even writing something journal for where there is no exhibit, try to adapt it to the organization. Try to tailor it to the organization. Right? So alone knowledge is useless. So if you just dump the knowledge about diversity, that diversity is about age, gender, religion, ethnicity, experience, and you write everything about diversity, that diversity brings this and that and that and this, but you're not anywhere in your answer, you're not talking about NC Tech. What's the use? So this list in front of your screen, will this help you develop a point well? A point picked from exhibit is the first assurance. No generic writing. Have you developed the point in the context of the requirement, what the requirement was asking you? One thing or two things. Have you developed every point sufficiently, like 3 to 4 sentences long? If there was no exhibit for a requirement, have you brought your book knowledge and then adapted that to the context of the case? Is that clear? Will that help you excel the technical marks you write in the paper? you should have sufficient knowledge of the topic, right? I mean, that's not an excuse, right? Because you're going to the exam hall, you need to have a full grasp of the syllabus. You should have a technical grasp. You cannot say, okay, I don't have a technical grasp. I even recommended yesterday to read 15 articles. They were minimum. You have 35 articles published by SBL examining team. You have ACCA study hub. So technical grasp is must, but just alone a technical grasp, that's useless, because technical grasp is to be blended with the nature of the organization, is to be blended with the context of the organization. Then only you're fetching marks in SPL. Is everyone clear with technical marks, writing an answer on your screen? Should we move on to the next element? Okay, great. Technical marks. Generally, up to 2 marks are available for a well-developed point. However, candidates are reminded that 2 marks will only be awarded when a relevant point has been successfully applied. Applied to whom? NC Tech. And developed. Developed means 3 to 4 sentences. Applied means NC Tech, the example we are taking. Have I given you a list in the preceding slide about applied and developed? Will you follow that list of applied and developed? Applied versus the requirement, applied versus the organization, and developed sufficient. 3 to 4 sentences. So will you all aim at a well-developed point? Right. So what is a well-developed point? The one which is applied. Applied to what? Applied versus the requirement. Are you meeting the expectation of the requirement? Are you doing justice to what was asked in the requirement? Number one. And applied to the organization. And number two, 3 to 4 sentences long. Right? I think you can watch my previous webinars if you are even my paid students and unpaid students. Even for unpaid students over the YouTube, I've done a couple of webinars where I've written an answer to tell you, okay, this is a well-developed point. And I've shared a link of my resources yesterday. I think that was bit.ly/SPL resources by KK. I hope you remember that link. You can go down and explore the way I wrote a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph. Okay, now moving on and looking into the professional marks. Now we just had a glimpse from task 1A and task 1B, where we read the professional marks. One was commercial acumen, one was analysis. And we got a conclusion that when you read the professional skill marks statement, it's very clear what the examining team is expecting from you, and you need to do that within your answer. You need to put your answer that way that when you're writing for technical marks, simultaneously you're getting your professional skill marks. You're not doing anything extra for professional skill marks. You're not writing an extra paragraph for professional skill marks. It's within the well-developed point you're writing. Let's look at the structure first, and then let's do another demonstration. Students generally fail to understand what they need to do to excel professional marks, which results in not scoring much out of the 20. What is the examining team looking for in terms of your demonstration of professional marks? If you have read the recent examiner reports for September 23 and December 23, and you've read the paragraph on professional skill marks, examining team is very clear what they expect from you, so they can award you the maximum of 20 professional marks. And I've taken this presentation checklist right from the And you can hear me as well, right? So we were discussing the professional marks, I think where we got the technical glitch. And we were just emphasizing that how critical is to capture the 20 professional marks and what exactly is the examining team looking for in terms of awarding you the 20 professional skill marks in the paper. I took this guidance from the September 23 and December 23 examiner report, where a section is written on how you score 20 professional marks. Let's see what sort of things you need to put in your mind for excelling the 20 professional marks in the SBL paper. Firstly, the journal professionalism, which most of the students lose in SBL, though it's so easy. And secondly, doing justice to the way the examiner wants the particular. Okay, I hope you all can hear me. There's some sort of some issues with Zoom currently I'm using. Okay, is my voice getting through to all of you? And are you all with me on professional marks where we were discussing? So there are two things to be discussed in professional marks. Firstly, it's the journal professionalism. And secondly, it's okay. Is my voice clear now? Can you all hear me? Okay, and which screen is in front of you? The professional marks? Okay, so we were discussing the professional marks, how to capture, how to gain most of them, right? And there are two things you need to do in professional marks. Firstly, the journal professionalism, and this is where the student lose mostly. They're not very good into journal professionalism. I just need to give you a quick checklist of that. And secondly, doing justice to the way the examiner want the particular professional skill under each task to be demonstrated. Have I given you a demonstration of that under task 1A and 1B? How the examiner want you to demonstrate commercial acumen in task 1A, and how the examiner want you to demonstrate analysis in the task 1B. So every time when you read a task, under the task you have a statement of the examiner that professional skill marks are available for XYZ skill, and what you need to do for that XYZ skill, examiner will tell you. You just need to follow that, and that's how you bring your answer at par to not just technical marks, but professional marks. And I'll just give you another example of that. Just let me complete this list of professional marks first. Journal professionalism within SBL, that's so easy. Gain easy professional marks by doing the following. This is among the 20 marks, right? This is journal professionalism, and this is covered in SBL examiner reports for September and December 23. This is how you can capture few of the 20 professional marks by following the journal professionalism. Put the answer in the right format. That's so easy. Memo, briefing notes, use of headings and subheadings to break your points, like security layer 1, security layer 2, security layer 3, whatever the names are. Break your answer into headings and subheadings as much as possible. Actions, recommendations, that's how you can break it down as well. So that's it. That's encouraging. Avoid repeating point within the same answer. Whatever points you're writing should be unique. You're not repeating a point again and again. So that's something which will not impress the marking team. Avoid lengthy paragraphs. I just mentioned you that an ideal length of a paragraph is 3 to 4 sentences long, which is a well-developed point. After that, you should take a break and start a new paragraph. Don't just write 6 to 7 sentences paragraph, 5 to 6 sentences paragraph. The SPL marking team does not like it. Use proper jargons, at least the jargons used in the case scenario or in the pre-scene information. Try to impress the marker that I knew these terminologies, they were in the case study. So try to use those proper terms, proper jargons, which are used in the case study, which can give an impressive tone to your answer. Is that clear with the journal professionalism on your screen? All of you. And the answer should be well connected to the case. You're not writing journal things. You're writing the things which are given in Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3, and Exhibit 4. So if you follow this sort of a checklist, at least you can assure yourself that out of 20, I'm just fetching 4 to 5 journal professional marks in the whole scenario. Task 1, task 2, task 3. This is so easy, right? No generic stuff or a lone knowledge. So if you just dump knowledge, you just write generic, which is not linked to case, not from the case, you're just making yourself happy as a student. You're not making the marking team happy. So will you all do excellence for journal professionalism? Will you all ensure this checklist in front of your screen is well put into practice over the next 18 days? Right, so this is journal professionalism, right? Now just let me demonstrate the second perspective of professional marks. Under each task, your examiner will ask you to demonstrate a particular skill and will also tell you how. He will not leave you blank, just like you leave examiner blank in your answer. Examiner will tell you which skill to be demonstrated and how. You will never find a vague statement of the examining team. Let me show you an example. Follow the how, and you will be able to demonstrate it in a much better manner. So let's take an example. You go back to the practice platform again. I hope you can see that in front of your screen. Okay, let's take another example. You can see the task 2 in front of your screen, all of you. Now for task 2, when you look at the A requirement, where you need to discuss about the board diversity for 10 marks, there are no professional marks allocated to task 2A. You go down and you can find the task 2B. Write an email to the HR director, which evaluates the advantages and disadvantages to NC Tech of formally adopting a talent management program. Now, for example, you open this up, your word processor. And in this word processor, you put the heading. You need to write sorry, just 1 minute. You need to write an email, right, for the task to be. So I've already done it over here. You can see this on the screen. So you write the answer for task 2B to human resource director from consultant, date, whatever, subject, talent management, advantages and disadvantages. Break your answer into headings. So you say hello, and the purpose of writing this email is to tell you about the advantages and disadvantages, so on and so forth. Then you put the heading advantages. Then you put the heading disadvantages. You have a total of 16 marks. So you will take 8 marks under advantages. 8 marks means you will divide it by 2. So you will be writing 4 advantages, each of 2 marks. And same goes down with the disadvantages, right? So you will be writing another 8 marks for disadvantages. And you will wrap up the answer. Advantage heading. Now, every advantage you write can have a subheading. You can give a subheading to every advantage. So headings and subheadings. Every advantage could be 3 sentences long. Some of them can be 2 to 3 sentences long. Some of them can be 3 to 4 sentences long. That's how you're taking on the journal professionalism. Now, when you're writing the advantage and disadvantage, how would you demonstrate the professional skill? Let's see which professional skill has been asked for. Professional skill marks are available for skepticism by probing into the issues relating to the introduction of a talent management program at NC Tech. What are issues in introducing a talent management program at NC Tech? And if they introduce, what advantages will they get? What disadvantages will they have? But currently, are there any issues relating to introduction of talent management which you need to consider? Where are they given, everyone? Where are the issues relating to talent management adoption is given? In which exhibit? In exhibit 3. So when you read the Exhibit 3, will the Exhibit 3 talk about some of the issues in introducing a talent management program? Some of the directors might not be happy with this introduction. Some of the directors might be of the opinion that we should not introduce it. So when you're writing the answer, particularly around advantages, will you take into account the issues some of the directors have with regards to talent management program, because probably they would not have a clear understanding of what a talent management program is, and you try to clarify the directors that how advantageous a talent management program could be for NC Tech. So you try to overcome the problems or issues which are there with the talent management program by writing the advantages. Is that clear to all of you? So please ensure you read the statement well, because that statement would exactly tell you what you need to do. So any student who probes the issues given in the exhibit number 3 in introducing a talent management program, and he converts those issues into like advantages or disadvantages when writing the answer. Now, some of those issues could be considered as advantage. Some of those issues could be considered as disadvantage. But if you bring them up and you incorporate them up and you're writing the advantages and disadvantages, you're fetching 4 extra marks. But if you have a bookish knowledge of talent management, or you read an article, for example, on talent management over the internet, and you know the journal advantages and disadvantages, you just dump them down, that's useless. So try to extract the advantages and disadvantages from the Exhibit 3, from within the issues given in Exhibit 3, and that's how you excel on the 4 professional marks here. Is that clear to all of you? Will you try reading the statement of examiner well in terms of how to demonstrate? Will you apply the journal professionalism as well? So please ensure you excel on the professional marks along with technical marks as much as possible. Okay. In continuation from the day one, I mentioned you the benefits of reading the examiner reports and mentioned you how the red, green, blue analysis could be very productive for all of you. I did recommend it that you download the September 23 examiner report and the December 23 examiner report. And once you have written the answer for September 23 paper, and once you've written the answer for December 23 paper, evaluate your answer with the examiner report. Download it, keep 3 markers with you, a red marker, a green marker, and a blue marker, and start reading the examiner report and keep your answer, keep your September 23 answer with you. And you read the September 23 examiner report, one side and one side is your answer. On the screen is your answer and a hard copy of the examiner report. And you read the examiner report. Okay, examiner says, why student fail and what they did wrong, right? And you underline that in red. And you say, oh, this is exactly what I did in my answer. And in your answer, you cross it. Then you're reading through the examiner report and you got what a stronger student do. And you say, oh, this is in my answer, tick it. Then you read through the examiner report and the examiner report tells you what the future students can do to excel. You might see, oh, what the examiner is saying the future student can do to excel, I've already done it. Tick. Or what the examiner is saying what future students can do, I have not done it, but I can do it in the next paper I'll solve at home, or in the mock exam I'll solve at home. So when you evaluate your answer with the examiner report, you will get a lot of cross in your answers, you will get a lot of ticks in your answer, and you will get a lot of advices which you can incorporate when you do the next paper, like December 23 or any paper. In that way, each paper is done. Your quality of answers will improve by the time you reach the mock paper and by the time you reach your real paper. So is everyone understanding the benefit of this red, green, and blue analysis? Understand the issues. If those are in your answer, avoid them for future answers. If there are strengths and those strengths are in your answer, implement them in your answer again and follow the advices of the examiner seriously. I have no idea, have any one of you done this analysis so far? Have you evaluated your answers with examiner reports? Anyone has done that? And how many of you compare your answers with examiner answers? Almost, I think, 100% of the students would be doing that, right? But is this an effective approach? Are you finding this an approach you can do RGB analysis, at least for September paper and December paper, the two of them? And believe me, it will bring a remarkable impact to the quality of your answer. You can judge that yourself. By the time you reach the mock exam and you know the problems, you know the strengths, you know the advices, and you made a summary of them, and you implement them on your mock paper, the quality will go up. And by the time you go to the real paper, you will be impressing the marking team. Okay. Finally, a few of the last things quickly. December 23 examiner report, I found some issues in that, which I believe I should be discussing with you quickly, and you should be avoiding them at any cost. From the December 23 examiner report, these are key insights why students are failing the SBL paper. Many candidates made insufficient use of the information presented to them in the exam exhibit to support their answers, despite these being key to generating relevant points to use in their answer. Did I mention this shortly in my webinar today? Not taking supports from exhibits, not taking points from exhibits, not making use of the information given to you on the day of exam. You are trying to write more of a journal answer around talent management, more of a journal answer around data breach, more of a journal answer around security layers, but you're not taking any help or guidance from the information given to you on the day of exam. That's number one. Number two, some candidates continue to answer the task they wish had been set rather than the task actually set in the exam. How interesting is that? I don't know what happens to students on the day of exam, that they continue to answer the task they wish. They just see the word integrated reporting and they start to write 6 capitals. They're not even reading what is the examiner asking you around integrated reporting. They see the word cyber security and they say, okay, advantages and disadvantages. Big data, advantages and disadvantages. They're not even bothered about reading what the examiner is asking you about big data and cybersecurity. They have just they've just rote learned the prior questions. So they see the word talent management, they recall a prior paper. They see the word big data, they recall a prior paper. And they try to do, they're good into rote learnings. The students are excellent into rote learnings. And that's where they are best at. And they just try to produce anything from the prior knowledge in the prior paper. And that's what not impressing the examining team. Number three, simply copy and pasting the pre-seen and the exam exhibit information into the answer with little or no attempt to relate this content to the question set, adding no further value. Alone copy paste, adding no value to it, not even linking it to the requirement, what the requirement is asking you, not even linking it to the context of the case study. Useless. What are you doing? You're creating your own failures. Number fourth, there was insufficient application of the relevant information provided in the exam. Have I given you a definition of a well-developed point? Have I given you how you need to develop your point sufficiently well? It should meet the expectation of the requirement. It should connect with the case study. So if you have an inability not to develop your point, you will fail the SBL paper. So please create an ability to develop your point well. If you're getting feedbacks from my side, if you are my enrolled student, and in the feedback I say adequacy of content, depth of content, I hope you know my marking criteria, right? If any one of you is my student, when you get an email, you get an email on depth and adequacy, right? So I mark you on adequacy, I mark you on depth. So if you're getting a good response on adequacy and depth, that means you're going fine. So try to build upon your adequacy and depth. there was evidence of the use of rote learn pre-prepared answers that were solely based on pre-seen information. I think some of the student was asking me yesterday that can we identify some questions from pre-seen? See this point. This is happening as a bad practice in market, that students look at the pre-seen and they start identifying some key questions around pre-scenes. They look at the area of risk and they try to identify some key questions around risk. They try to look at an area of governance. They try to find some questions on governance, and then they rote learn those questions. They go to the exam hall and they just, whatever they've rote learned, they just reproduce. Is this a strategic business leader? Is this the literal meaning of a strategic business leader? The strategic business leader means a person who is creative, who is a right thinker, who takes the right decisions, the right judgments by looking at the context, giving sound arguments, sound basis. What sort of a strategic business leader are you demonstrating if you are a student who is doing the number 5 practice on screen? Poor command of the English language. I just mentioned you at least quote jargons. Have you read, will you be reading pre-seen 14 days before exams? Will you come across jargons? Will you come across some difficult terms? You can go onto the Google and check the synonyms. Can you build upon your vocabulary? Can you build upon the jargons mentioned in the pre-seen? Can you use them in your answer? That's very important. We know ACCA is done in so many countries where English is not the first language. They don't penalize you too harshly for English, but at least it's understandable. In 1 out of 10 assignments I check on emails, I do find this as an issue. I do find sometimes reading what the student is trying to say is so difficult. You read it twice and thrice and you waste your time, but you're still not understanding what the student is trying to say. At least you've given so many papers of ACCA. You should have learned you should have learned a basic English definition by now. I hope this will go a long way in your improvement for the next 18 days, right? The key insights from the December 23 examiner report. The few of the final things: stop idealizing the examiner answers. I don't know why students just run after examiner answers. They try to idealize them. They try to replicate them. They just want to write the way the examiner has written. They are so impressed with the examiner and they believe, okay, this is what we need to write and this is exactly the way we need to write if we want to pass the SBL paper. Honestly, if that is the way to write, and if that is the way you're looking for to write, then the passing rate of SBL should not have been 52%. Marking team is looking for your judgments, your perspectives, your arguments, your debates, your linkage to the case, your well-developed point. There is no one right and wrong answer in SBL. Examiner answers are tutorial guidance, tutorial for me and for you to learn. Contain all points which could have been developed. Examining team is not writing an answer in 195 minutes. Nowhere it's written that this is an answer which you should fit in 195 minutes. No. They write all points which could have been possible to guide you and to me that this is all what could have been developed. But out of this, you need to write points versus the marks. If there is 10 marks, you need to write 5 points. Examining team would write for 10 marks, answer 10 points. And you will learn from the examiner answer 10 marks, 10 points. And you go to the exam hall and you will not be completing the paper. Are lengthy as examiner tries to justify every aspect for the sake of learning. They try to give you everything in the answer. They want you to learn from it. Examiner answers are a good source of learning, but not a good source which you idealize, get inspired with, and then replicate it. So if you just try to make an examiner answer a benchmark, and you say, only if I meet this benchmark, I'll pass, that's absolutely wrong. If examining team answer is a benchmark of passing, the passing rate should be 0% then. No one can meet that. Then why is the passing rate 52%? Why so many students in SBL are passing with so good marks? You will get to talk with my students tomorrow, 82 marks, 80 marks, 77 marks, 75 marks. How are they getting it? Because they're idealizing the examining team answers. They're replicating the examining team answers. No, they're writing their own creativity into the paper. They're linking things to the case. They're demonstrating journal professionalism. They are ensuring that they demonstrate the professional skills properly, so on and so forth. You will never complete the paper, right, if you idealize the examiner answers. I hope you're getting a strong message here if any one of you do that. Exam techniques for the day of exam. You still have 18 days. You prepare yourself, you put your 200%, you did the past papers, you read the examiner report, you do the red, green, blue analysis, you do the TEPCA approach I guided you today, you excelled on professional marks, you had a good grasp of the syllabus, and you're so well prepared for the day of exam. But on the day of exam, a day before the day of exam, you kept studying 24 hours. You didn't take a sleep. You slept for 2 hours. What are you doing to yourself? This is not the way to get to the exam environment, that you study till the last moment. If you, for example, you have exam on Tuesday, Monday is the day when you should stop and say, okay, enough. Now I'll just calm myself. I'll just mediate myself. I'll just compose myself, and I'm just prepared for the battle tomorrow. But if you keep revising and asking the tutor, what should I do in the last 24 hours? What should I do now? I'm forgetting everything. Be calm. The last 24 hours is for you to be calm, be composed, do nothing. That's when your brain will work on Tuesday in the best condition. Why are you impairing this? You don't want this to work on the day of exam, or you want this to be fresh, energetic, pumped up, so you deliver your best. With all efforts, on the day of exam, if you broke down, on the day of exam, if you panicked out, on the day of exam, if you stressed out, what will happen? Everything gets wasted. I hope you're getting my point, right? So my first message to all of you is, on the day of exam, be calm and control your nerves. And this should start 24 hours before exams. I get so many student answers, and I'll still be getting it. 24 hours before the exam, sir, what should I do? Sir, what should I do at this time? Sir, please tell me what should I do in the next 10 hours? What sort of replies can I give you to such messages, honestly? Number two, the paper you will open will be a new case study. You are reading for the first time. Be prepared for it mentally. Every exam sitting brings a new case, and you will read it for the first time. You will understand it for the first time. But because you've practiced so much about how you read, how you plan, how you write, you've done so many papers, it will not be difficult for you. You need to do your best, but for that, you need to be mentally present. You have practiced plenty. You must have seen lots of requirements and dimensions in the prior case studies. So you will handle the new case study. Don't worry about it. Is point number 3 clear to all of you? Be optimistic. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Why have you done practice? Why have you done practice of the past papers? To be ready for the big day, right? Follow the techniques you've learned before this big day. Follow the techniques you've learned from any source, including this webinar. Implement them and ensure each one of them is effectively implemented. Stick to time management and keep moving on where the time ends. We were looking at the task 1, 70 minutes. Time ends, move on. Don't just continue writing after the time has ended. That's the worst thing the student do. Moving on. Life has to move on. You need to move on if you want to pass on. You cannot just get stuck completing the task number 1, even you reach the 100th minute. 70th minute and stop and move on. You can come back to it later and finish it off. If you don't know any requirement or seems challenging at the first go, leave it, flag it, and come back to it later. You know there is an option to flag, right? So if you don't know a requirement, flag it, come back to it later. Don't just glare the screen. Don't just keep looking at the screen as if something divine will come to you. A lot of times the students get stuck. Task number 1B, and they're reading the task number 1B, four layers of security, 4 layers of security. What is 4 layers of security? What I need to do in the 4 layers of security? Is it something about an article which was published by the examining team? Is it like the four lines of defense or an assurance mapping article? Blah, blah, blah. And they keep thinking, wasting time. Better stop, move on, come back to it later. I hope you know this option of flagging, right? You go to your practice platform. For example, you don't know the task 1B, talent management. You have never heard about talent management. So you open the navigator, and in the navigator, there is a task 2. You press the flag on task 2 that I have something incomplete on task 2, and I'll come back to it later. And you move on to the next task, task number 3. Complete the task number 3 first within the time. And once you've completed the task 3, you press the navigator and you'll see, okay, I have one question left as flagged. You click on it and you go back to the task 2 and do it in the last moments of your exam time. So you have so much advantages in the computer-based exam. I don't know why you don't use them effectively. Don't spoil rest of your paper for something you don't know. Just forget it and move on. Why aren't you looking at opportunities? Even if I don't know 20% of the paper and I found a topic very difficult, which I can do later, I can move on and come back to it later and do something in that 20% paper because there is no negative marking. I can do something in 20% paper. At least I can get 2 to 3 marks from that 20% paper. But what about the 80% paper, you know? Can't you excel? Can't you get 50 out of 80? I've seen so many students getting 50 out of 80, 60 out of 80. Look at the opportunities. Look at the glass is half full. Don't look at the glass is half empty. I don't know why students become so pessimistic on the day of exam. They should be optimistic on the day of exam. Attack on the opportunities. Attack on what you know. Grab them first. Leave what you don't know. Come back to it later. If you don't know anything, leave it for the end. Suppose you know 10 marks, leave it. Come back to 10 marks later. No negative marking. So even if you write something, you might get 1.5. But at least do something on the opportunities. At least do something you know well. I don't know why you spoil your papers for something which comes out of context. And in all these strategic level papers, expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected, right? You need to go with that mindset in the exam hall. Is everyone clear with exam techniques on the day of exam? Have you found them effective? Have you found some motivation coming out of them? So I hope the session today, where I spoke about some professional skills, technical skills, we spoke about the examiner reports and examiner answers, and I did demonstrated the time management. I did demonstrated that TEPCA sort of approach. I hope that all will go down, and even the 6 issues which were highlighted in the December 23 examiner report, I hope all that would have some positive impact over the next 18 days. You have to study the SBL. Okay, thank you so much, all of you, for coming in, participating in the day 2. Don't miss out the day 3. My exceptionally good students who scored 75 plus in the recent exam settings will come in, will talk to you. They will share their experiences on the day of exam, before the exam, what they used to do, what they did on the exam, how they excel on. You will learn from them. You can ask questions to them. They will be answering you. So I will be speaking less. They will be speaking more tomorrow. And you will get an inspiration that if they can do it, I can do it. If they can score 75, I can score 75. If they can score 82, I can score 82. So all the best, study effectively, And I'll see you back tomorrow. Yes, same time tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Pakistan time. Same link being shared in the groups will be utilized for tomorrow joining. So use the same link and come to the session. You will be amazed with the high achievers talking to you tomorrow. Thank you so much, all of you. Have a nice day. Study effectively. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz. You're all welcome. You're all welcome. And I wish you all the very best of luck.